the table.
There is.
If you can lock one screen on the table
to do
and
that.
include Anita, that would be most useful.
Shall we do have one that's locked just on the table?
Yeah.
Do you not see it?
Yeah, I don't see Anita. I see the window of the window.
Really?
Oh, that's the other picture. Do you see the one that's on the table that shows
Now,
all three?
okay, that's good.
The middle screen, the middle, I don't know.
If you can lock that for the whole meeting, will be fine.
It'll be up for the whole meeting, but the other one's up too.
Right, apologies to everybody who's here for this meeting. This is a different setup for us, so thank you for bearing with us for a moment.
Chenault, is that better? You're recording and you're live.
This is Community Board 2 Manhattan, the Landmarks meeting, a second meeting for this month for November of 2024. We have a quorum, and the first application is 4143 Mercer Street. Application is to demolish an existing garage at number 41, construct a new building in its place, and to combine the two new buildings with 43, which is to have an addition and a storefront alterations. Okay, I know Jackie, and she may have others.
May I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you.
If you're set up for that.
Okay.
Would everyone except Jackie please turn off your mics and cameras? And Jackie, if you have others to join, you say so.
I think we're all here. Thank you. First, I'd like to introduce the architect, Alexander Naratoff. He's going to give a brief introduction for a couple of sheets, and then I'm going to speak to you for a little while, and then I'm going to reintroduce him to go through the design with you. All right?
How long do you think the presentation will take?
We're going to try to keep this to 25 minutes.
Okay.
It's it's tough because it's really two separate projects.
We start early to give it time.
Thank you. We'll do our best.
We'll count on about an hour then.
Thank you.
If there are other applicants in the room.
Thank you. We will keep it brief as much as possible, and we'll keep it moving.
Okay.
So
we're ready.
Okay, Alexander, would you like to begin? This is Alexander Naratoff, the architect.
Yes. Good evening, Chairman Spence and board members. I've been looking at and reading SoHo facades my entire
Alexander, we're not hearing you.
You can't hear me?
You're breaking up.
Yeah, you were breaking up there a bit.
He sounds perfect to me.
I will
maybe get closer to.
Try
again. How is that now?
Much better.
All right. So I was saying that I've been looking at and reading SoHo facades for my entire professional life, 45 years, living and working on Prince Street in SoHo, and I'm honored to make this contribution to its architecture. The project grew out of the 2021 SoHo NoHo rezoning, a process I was involved with representing the loft tenant and artist community. While I disagree with many of the ultimate results, and particularly with its implementation by the Department of Buildings, the new zoning created a reality which we now live with. The project has an aesthetic goal, the creation of a new facade in response to a reading of SoHo architectural and social history, and an urban design goal to find a way to fit the floor area allowed by the rezoning into a neighborhood context, resulting in limited visibility and without damaging the scale of this single focus historic district. Next, please.
Hold on, trying to get this to work. Okay, sorry.
The completed project will stay within the 6 to 7 story scale of central SoHo. We chose not to take advantage of additional height allowed by the rezoning. Instead, we added bulk to the existing brick 4-story building at 43 Mercer, setting much of it back beyond visibility from Mercer Street. Allow me to reintroduce our wonderful preservation consultant, Jacqueline Poudevalon.
Thank you. Hello, committee members. Thank you again for having this additional meeting tonight. We so appreciate it, and we appreciate your time always. My name is Jackie Puduval, JPD Preservation Consulting. 41 Mercer is a one-story garage, as Chenault already introduced. So we're asking you to remember that, because part of our application is to get approval for demolition of that garage. So that building at 41 Mercer was previously a 4-story building, which I'll describe in more detail as we're looking at historic photos. For now, again, we ask that you keep in mind that the existing garage is not architecturally significant, as part of our application is to demolish it. 43 Mercer on the right, next to the garage, is presently a 4-story house with an altered base, but it too has evolved. 43 Mercer was originally a 3-story federal house. Its roof has been raised to add the existing 4th floor, and it's been extended at the rear to almost the rear lot line. Here are 3 views showing you the location of the 2 buildings within the historic district and on their block. The center map and the aerial view show that, like most blocks in SoHo, the buildings in the block extend back to almost their rear lot line, and this block is pretty much entirely built out. Here are views looking at the west and east sides of the block. You'll note there is some variety in scale and variety in materiality compared to other blocks in SoHo. On the left is 41 and 43 Mercer with their neighbors, and on the right are the buildings directly across the street. The tall glass building in the foreground is the Jean Nouvel Tower that faces Broadway. And you'll note that there's a gap in the street wall between that glass tower and the brick lot line wall of its neighboring building. That gap between the 2 buildings can be seen here in this aerial view and in the photo taken from Broadway on the right. This view corridor will allow for visibility of the rooftop addition that we're proposing at number 43, although from a great distance. Also, please note that there's already a rooftop addition on top of a building behind 43 Mercer, which is visible from Broadway, which you're seeing indicated on this photo. Here's again just another illustration of that view corridor to make it as simply put as possible. And here on these historic maps, we can see how this block has evolved over time. In the 1850s, most of the block was still Federal and Greek Revival style houses, including, I should say, actual Federal and Greek Revival houses, not just in style, including at 41 and 43 Mercer. By 1900, which you see the map in the middle, the entire block has been built out. Loft buildings have replaced most of the houses. And by 1930, which you see on the right, you can see that, again, the predominant buildings within this particular block are lofts. Going left to right, you're seeing the 1940s tax photos for 41 and 43 Mercer. On the left is 41 Mercer before it was replaced by the current 1-story garage. And in the middle is 43 Mercer. In the 1860s, the house that was at 41 Mercer was demolished and replaced with a 4-story full-depth building, and later enlarged in 1921 with a partial 5th floor. Sometime prior to designation, that building was completely removed and replaced with the garage that's there now. The house at 43 Mercer was enlarged vertically and horizontally in 1869 to a 4-story, presumably factory building, including, we think, possibly the replacement of its front facade materials, and also included in that was deepening of its entire cellar to commercial depth. Now here on this page, we're explaining to you the evolution of 43 Mercer. You can see in the photo on the left that there's still a scar there of the original profile of the house. You can see its sloped roof and the chimneys that were there, which were later infilled to give it a full floor and then an additional floor on top of that. You can also see this in the designation photo, the black and white photo. You can see pretty clearly where there was the original outline of the original small house, which would have resembled the houses that we see in the lower right corner photo here of houses that were on Prince Street. So again, we're dealing with a historic building that is gone. It's been replaced by a one-story garage. And at 43 Mercer, a historic building that has been highly altered and has changed a lot in the course of its life in Soho. Here we're showing you in these maps and in sections how 43 Mercer has changed over time. So in the bottom left, you're seeing the profile of the original house that was there and the presumably maybe a carriage house extension that was in the back, or maybe it was a kitchen with living space above. It's all conjecture at this point. In any case, the main body of the house was completely lost when it was changed into an industrial use, as most of the buildings in this district became by the mid to late 19th century. And between, let's see, the center section is from 1940, an illustration of what we think was there from 1870 to 1870 to 1945. And on the right is what it's looked like from, we think, 1948 to today, with just a change in depth of cellar excavation. Now, in this district, you see this a lot more often in Greenwich Village, as I don't have to really explain to all of you. But a common way to add an additional floor, mostly in Greenwich Village, but also on some buildings here in Soho, was to create an atelier addition, a studio addition, studio windows at the front, which would be chamfered back from the main facade. We see that in this district at 550 Broadway, which you see on the left, and on the right is 400 West Broadway, which in the 1940s tax photo you see in the center did not have this addition, but prior to designation, an addition using this approach was built, and that's what that building looks like today. Of course, you're all aware that very large rooftop additions have been approved before in this district. We're looking left to right at 38 Green Street, which is pretty much all glass two-story addition with roofs chamfering back to reduce their visibility from the street. And the center is an elevation drawing for 107 to 111 Green Street, which was approved in 2001 and constructed, which included a two-story, mostly glass addition. And on the right, 277 Canal Street, which is really an entire reimagining of that former theater building into an apartment building with a large setback rooftop addition. Most relevant for us, perhaps, is a precedent on Mercer Street. This is at 53 Mercer, where there's an existing house from the 1850s, I believe, that, like 43 Mercer, became converted to commercial use. It was extended at the rear, and it received an approval from Landmarks Commission for a two-story rooftop addition in 2022. And I think proportionally, in a way, the rooftop addition is even larger than what we're going to be showing you for 43 Mercer, because it's a very large rooftop addition, tall floor-to-ceiling heights, and large glazed openings. Now, obviously, within this district, there's been many new buildings approved as well, most of them with this, the typical radiated facade approach to replicate, to honor the cast iron facades of the loft buildings that predominate in this district. These are all examples of new building approvals since 2001. And on Mercer Street itself, we have new buildings approved at 151 Mercer, of course, the Jean Nouvel building directly across the street, as well as 44 Mercer Street, which is on the other side of that gap between the two buildings, and 72 Mercer. And with that, I would like to introduce the architect again, Alexander Neratov.
Thank you, Jackie. So the existing facade on 41 is from the late 40s. There are no remaining historic features on the facade. And the garage door became glazed when the space went from industrial use to an antique store, evolving ultimately into a restaurant, which it is today. The facade of the new facade is modeled after the slender 25-foot 4-bay cast iron facades, of which there are about 6 or 8 in Soho. But it also preserves, by being a 4-bay facade, it preserves a sort of a memory of the 1860s 4-bay building that 41 Mercer used to be. Next. And 41 Mercer is unusual. It's only 50 feet deep. So we're proposing to build it to a 6-story main block built full with a facade setback 15 feet at the 7th floor and a small penthouse on top. And based on our recent probes, the cellar that was filled entirely in 48 or so, apparently it was a full 10-foot depth cellar, so we do not expect to be deepening the cellar or having to underbin any adjacent buildings. Next. Now, I want to talk a little bit about the cast iron facade. The SoHo cast iron district is the only historic district in New York that defines by its name a singular style that's being preserved and highlighted, focused on the cast iron facades. The original purpose of these facades was salesmanship, to present the tenants of the buildings as sophisticated, stylish, and successful purveyors of good taste to the shoppers of this country. The desired look was a European marble palace, but the objective is to do so as cheaply, as quickly as possible. They were built during a real estate boom. So the SoHo facade is a technically innovative invention using an industrially produced stone substitute, cast iron, attached to a very cheap and conventionally built shell, just like the typical 19th century industrial mill that you see all over the Northeast. It has 2 functional goals: to reduce the cost and time of construction, to bring the maximum natural light to the high-end manufacturing spaces inside. Everything in the SoHo facade was dedicated to expressing these functional and marketing goals. Windows were the cheapest type possible, double hung, to provide size on a budget. Floor heights were adjusted to allow maximum penetration of sunlight needed for the very high-end manufacturing needs. Gaslight was too dim. Increasing window size while reducing the percentage of solid material forced an evolution of the facade from the classical imitative style that you see on the left side of the slide to that system had its own solid to void limitations based on style. And as the process evolved, columns became thinner and therefore evolved from a classical style to thinner Gothic columns or eclectic taste, as you see in 550 Broadway below, or Moorish ones on some other buildings. Eventually, the solid portion was reduced to what may be, and I'm not sure yet, but it may be a SoHo invention, which is the cast iron pilaster, where its style was reduced to a repetitive industrialized element, classical in section, but devoid of three-dimensionality, which means it was cheap, containing its cultural message in the edge profile, not much more than a single line drawn by 2 intersecting surfaces, the front and the side that's cut and planed. This very modern concept is what we built on to create our contemporary model. Next. Ernest Flagg, this upper left, in the Little Singer building, was already looking for minimal means to express the classical by reducing the cornice to 2-dimensional repetitive scrolls. Already a modern kind of idea. The the single shadow line running at the typical SoHo pilaster's edge is analogous to modern analytical work such as Noam Gubbo's cubist heads or Matisse's expressive line drawings. And as you'll see as I go through this, our facade also carries with it reminiscences of SoHo's modern era cultural messaging. SoHo's windows open to some of the most important studios of the post-war period. SoHo was also where public art of the 60s and 70s was first seen at this scale in New York. Our facade, choosing to be a work of public art, comments on this context the way Forrest Meyer's The Wall does so well. Next. So here is what we actually did. We deconstructed the SoHo facade into a single fin. What we did is we scanned digitally the building next door, literally 4749 Mercer, and we reduced that to a two-dimensional profile. And the edge of that scan became the edge of our fin pilaster. We could then reassemble these fins manufactured off-site in solid aluminum into a double fin pilaster system that you see on the right side in the early study, following the classic proportions of a SoHo building, but made of modern elements, reflecting Mercer Street's context, including its sawtooth scale, and details such as the second floor balconies and railing details that are typical of this part of SoHo. Horizontal strips span the width of the facade at each floor, reprising another SoHo look. And the fins could be backed by either a glass strip, especially at the first floor, where the glass memorialized the glass garage door that occupied the storefront for the past 30 years. Next. Mercer Street is still known for its concentration of modern dancers, choreographers, and musicians. I always thought that serialism was somehow related to SoHo's endless multi-story colonnades. As I was designing this facade, Steve Paxton, who no doubt worked in some spaces along the east side of Mercer Street, passed away. And I realized that this facade, with its 30 hollow double columns, can be a visual embodiment of Paxton's iconic Goldberg variations, 30 variations on a theme, and the theme became the two solid pilasters, which you can see we added in the storefront of the adjacent project at 43 Mercer. So that became the theme, the solid pilaster, and our 30 hollow columns and 43, and they're proportioned in a way that the width of the solid pilaster at 43 fits exactly into the hollow space of the 30 columns at 41 Mercer. Next. Some of the 30 hollow columns would have solid backs, others would be transparent. Capitals and bases could vary from floor to floor in complexity. Lower floors are a little bit more complex. Same thing with the upper floor. Windows would be an would be a modern aluminum-clad wood version of a double-hung window with unequal height sash, lowering on bedroom floors to create good ventilation, and lifting at living room levels to create an opening of more than 6 feet in height to function like an outdoor balcony. And the facade, unlike the classic SoHo facades, but correctly for SoHo function, reflects the interior function of the spaces behind. For instance, the second floor, the fourth floor, and the sixth floor are living rooms. The third and fifth floor are bedrooms, creating a rhythm within the facade that is reflects that this is not a speculative factory building where every floor is the same. It reflects, like SoHo facades did, what is happening in the building. In this case, it is a variety of function on different floors. Next. Yeah, here we see some of the sash at the living room levels in detail with the red arrows, those sashes lifting up. And on the 5th floor, which is shown here, the sash goes completely behind the SoHo, the solid structure of the cornice, producing this 6-foot opening. Next. At the 1st floor, the 2 middle portions are fixed. The outer ones are the 2 entrances, one to the building, one to the store. Typically of SoHo facades, it has doors and a transom. Behind the solid portion of the cornice above, there is structure, there is an air curtain, and there's a rolled system for roll down gates or shades. Next. And so this is the result in 3 dimensions. It's a composition of vertical fins, small fins between the columns, and the horizontal bands at each floor, as is the classic look in SoHo. On 43, we'll get to that later, but you'll see the 2 solid pilasters that are the equivalent of the hollow ones at 41 Mercer. Next. Oh yeah, I didn't mention on the 2nd floor, we see the 2nd floor here. The doors there are, these are doors because the 2nd floor faces an outdoor space, a balcony. It looks like a fire escape. It's actually connected to the fire escape, but it also reprises the neighborhood characteristic of Southeast SoHo, which is 2nd floors typically have balusters, as opposed to the rest of SoHo where the balusters don't exist. The windows go down to the architrave. And the railing detail here is picked up from that next block up on Mercer Street that occurs in that block in 3 different buildings. Next, and again, some close-ups of how the system works. The fins are continuous. I mean, obviously they're segmented, but they're continuous, aligned, vertical, and the horizontal members between the columns, between the fins of the columns, fit in horizontally between the fins, and the horizontal members of the cornices are in front of the columns. They are also aluminum, a little bit thinner than the 1-inch dimension of the vertical fins. We now show the photomontage of the new scheme into the existing fabric of 39 and 45 Mercer. The 6-story facade of 41. On 43, we'll talk about it a little bit more, but the storefront is the new element. There's a cast iron arch lintel that is slightly visible right now above the info brick that exists below the arch. The crown is original. It's just painted green. It's actually painted some darker color originally. And above that is our proposed atelier addition at the 5th floor, 43. Next. So the same thing viewed from a little bit to the south and a little bit to the north. Again, on the and further away, the same view from the corner of Grand, and next from the corner of Broome Street, where you see very little of the 43, but you see the addition, the new building at 41. Next. Now, back to 43. So there are very few buildings such as 43 Mercer left in Soho. Since mid-19th century, booming development pressures almost inevitably resulted in the replacement of obsolete residential row houses with new cast iron front buildings. As a relatively low-rise brick building, it is really a background building in this uniquely thematic cast iron district. And we think its facade, as Jackie has mentioned, was replaced during its enlargement in 1869. The brick is uniform and frankly rather not great quality, so it is industrial. We thought that once the immediate cast iron development boom was over and had missed this building, it would have been a logical expectation to have an artist atelier added, in the same way that 550 Broadway was enlarged sometime after 1900, and many similar buildings in Greenwich Village and East Village were developed. This floor is intended to be perceived as a 1900-1910 addition and would use the same solid aluminum materials and detailing to make it be perceived as part of the historic volume of the building, reducing then the addition to a much smaller percentage of what would be seen by the eye as a 5-story original building. I would note, as Jackie did, that 41 Mercer was a 4-story. It was enlarged in the 20s, actually in 21. So there is a precedent for Soho receiving enlargements in the post-1900 period. But the main factor of this atelier was, of course, to mask the addition above, which is not visible from Mercer, Grand, or Broome Street, as we saw in the photo montages. It's only seen from Broadway, 260 feet away, as we'll talk about it, and it's seen against the upper right photograph. That's the 2-story addition to 38 Green. And so the addition we're proposing, as you can see in the elevation, is never seen against the sky because it's only seen at a great distance in a very frontal exposure. Next. So here we have sections through 43. On the left, the existing one with in red the outline of the original house as memorialized by the shadow of the south wall. And then on the right is the proposed building with the addition, again in red dots, is the outline of the existing on the proposed. And the outer red line is the outline of 4749 Mercer above, which is substantially larger than our addition. Next. Oh, one thing, yeah, I'll say here, the same thing. The cellar here also, we probed it. It also was filled in 1947 when the building was converted to industrial laundry, where concrete floors were poured at the first floor and second floor. And to achieve heavy floor loads required by trucks, by laundry trucks, they filled in the cellar, but the probes revealed that the cellar in the 1860s, 1869, was deepened to 10 feet. So again, we do not expect that we need to deepen the cellar as part of this project, and we do not expect that we need to underpin any adjacent building. So again, the same thing here, the outline of the existing house and the old house and the existing, over the existing building. You can see 196 grand as backgrounds. And the new addition with, again, the sight lines showing that from Mercer Street, what we're adding to on 43 is not visible. From over the 43 Mercer Street, you do see the edge of 41 as we showed in the perspectives. Next. Here, the storefront replacement. Again, since the 40s, this was a garage entrance. It was so as long as anybody remembers here, there was this rectangular, a squarish opening right in the middle. And so we maintain a memory of that between the two pilasters that would look historic, and with the architrave above being modern and shaped to be can be more or less elaborate. And we're maintaining the exposed arch lintel. We want to show it that it's there. We don't know its shape yet. Jackie, next. And there are a couple of theories on 45 Mercer. I found a very unusual arch lintel, which has a slightly curved element that's in red on the detail, but it also could be a reverse T-shape, as some of the details that are in Don Friedman's book of cast iron details. Right, and a photograph on the left is what you see now, which is the bottom edge, but it doesn't give you a clue what's behind the infill brick that's below the arch. Next. And here are some, at 400 West Broadway, there is an exposed arch lintel, which was left exposed, and they filled in with a contemporary addition below. There are a couple of modern versions on Spring Street and on Mercer Street. And also I show an existing infill to what used to be a house at 118 Prince Street, which is a wood storefront with some cast iron pilasters. And on the right is the profile of this cast iron, now aluminum pilaster that we're going to be using. Next. The look back at 41 from 43 with the, we're maintaining a difference of color, of detail, and making a very simple handicap, kind of reverse of a ramp because Mercer Street slopes, so it just stays straight and then 2 steps. Next. There will be a tree planted in the front. Some details, again, 43 on the right, 41 on the left, the fire escape above. Some sections through the upper levels. So the upper levels, I'm not sure if I got to that yet. Actually, did we? So anyhow, the upper levels, you'll see that the portion above the slanted 5th floor is all recessed, only seen from Broadway, through trees, through a glass wall on Broadway. And I've used some details there that are reminiscent of a water tower for the upper level and of the truss that typically supports water towers at the lower below that. Next.
Oops, sorry.
The water tower is something that you see above many rooftops in SoHo, and so the use of this wood vertical detail will make it sort of allow you to sort of mentally dismiss it as an object that you see but you're not really conscious of. And same thing with the truss below. So this is how a drone eye view would see this. 41 on the left, the 7th floor recessed penthouse, small penthouse above with mechanical equipment above, slightly visible above 43, but and then 43 only visible at the 260-foot distance from Broadway. The back facade, on the left is the existing. The back roof is lower than the extension of this building is lower. It's a 3-story extension to a 4-story building. In 1969, the first floor opening was made very wide in all glass. We're maintaining that.
Excuse me, someone has a microphone open. Would you please close it?
Yeah, I'm working on
And so we're adding above the third floor, we're adding our extension, which has it has 4 floors and a mezzanine. If you count the windows, it looks like 5 stories, but it's actually it's 4 and a mezzanine being added to the 3-story portion of this building, which is 4 stories in the front. It's about half 4 stories, half 3 stories. Photo is the rear yard with the big glass opening, which was put in for Dakota Jackson's showroom in 1991. It was his showroom for about 10 years. Next. Some 3D views of the addition, zinc coated panels, which we used to like to use lead coated copper. I think at this point it would be either zinc coated copper or something like Rhine zinc or one of those very matte surface gray columns that will evolve with time, would kind of fade a little bit in time. Next. The existing, again, rear yard, the existing 3-story roof, looking back at the 4-story portion on the right side from the 3-story portion with Jean Lavelle's building in the background. Next. And the existing roof of the 4-story portion of the building looking towards the street, documenting the existing condition. And next, this is where the mock-up added to that. Next, and this again is the next few slides. On the left is existing condition with the mock-up added. On the right is the proposed photo montage that we saw earlier, as a left to right comparison. So next, please. And here it is from the view from Grand Street. Next. And the view from the north. A little further away from the building. So most of 43 is obscured by 41's extension, of course. And then 45 is a little bit taller. So that's what limits the visibility of the extension to a 1-story. And then much further away, you just see a little piece of the 43 slanted window, the atelier window. Views from Broadway. Because we're 260 feet away, and we're only at that point are dealing with roughly a 20-foot wide corridor, this is almost a theatrical presentation. As everything's flattened because we're looking straight at the building, and and the idea there is that you really, at this distance, will not be able to tell whether the portion of the addition that's above the 5th floor, the atelier portion of the 5th floor, you can't really tell whether it's an addition to this building or it's something on Green Street, particularly since we're up against a solid wall of 38 Green. And so we never,
I appreciate this.
we're never against the sky.
Of what you showed earlier. And so I don't think we want to keep showing the same thing again.
Okay,
Sir,
going.
please close your microphone, and you'll be called on to speak later. Do not interrupt the presentation. Thank you.
Close-ups of the same thing, existing on the left with 38 Green, and the new addition on the right, seen through trees and a glass wall. Next. Same thing, a winter view and a summer view. In summer, you don't see anything. It's completely grown over. And even in winter, the trees obscure most of what you see. Next. Going back to the rendered views, 41 and 43. Next. And again, more views of the same. And that's it for the main presentation. The appendix has colors of the precedents we can go to if there are any questions.
Okay, thank you. To go backwards, we don't need to see it again, but you showed a dimensional rendering of the rooftop and when you spoke about the water tower. You just mentioned about what it looked like. Do I understand that that is not actually a part of the visibility?
It's only visible from Broadway, 260 feet away.
Right, okay, so that there's not the front view that we saw, nobody sees.
No, absolutely not. I mean, not nowhere from Grand, Broome, or Mercer do you see that extension. So it's a very framed, distant view, the same way you see 38 Grand Addition, the
Right.
same way you see buildings on in reverse, buildings on the back of Crosby Street. Again, you see unintended, very neutral looking extensions of buildings that new building.
Yeah, I think we understand clearly.
Yeah.
We'll now have questions, comments from the committee and from any members of the board who are here and from our guest and then from the public. The public comments will be limited to 2 minutes, please. From the committee first, please.
I can
Yes,
start.
please start, yeah.
I can start. Well, thank you. I think this was a very interesting project and presentation. It has a lot of really great ideas. So congratulations on that. I guess one thing I would like to start with, rather than getting into the details of it, is the overall facade. Maybe we could just see a picture, maybe the elevation actually. One of the reasons I was wondering is if you couldn't pull, the four, I'm talking about the new facade. Below, street.
Sorry. You want the full
Yeah,
building elevation?
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to talk about the big picture for a minute.
It's like page.
Anyway, let me
two.
explain what my comment is.
Page 1, Jackie.
Go ahead.
Okay.
In
One of
elevation.
those.
Yeah.
There, stop. Go back.
Okay, I was trying to go back to the first one.
Stop.
That's fine. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, this is where it originates from. Looking at this elevation, I find that the windows have gotten so square. You know, one of the fun things about SoHo is how it sort of elongates and it's nice and tall, and the proportions of the windows are really rectangular and not squat. So in response to that, one of the things is if you could just give the either side on the property line a return. In other words, feel like the columns are really should have a whole row of them. There's no edge, and if you look at the many SoHo buildings, whether they have a coin or some other architectural feature that pulls the pilaster away from the edge, and it's sort of respectful to the adjacent buildings. So, and it allows for a lot of different materials in combination with that. And the other thing on this is, what is the side material? If you are looking down the street, would you ever see like the party wall, if you will? Is it brick?
Yes, you do.
Or is
So you
it something
see,
else? Right here,
Yeah.
that picture.
yeah, but both side walls are brick the way all these buildings are built, with a little return that's, pretends to be cast iron. It's very much.
Well, I would encourage you to tighten it up, because I think it would help through your elevation, and it would be very nice. I mean, you don't have to agree with me, but I do think that is a very, very common feature, and it's very, it allows your whole building and your whole design to breathe a little bit, so you're not so tangent on your property line.
We have actually worked on that a lot. And
Okay.
it turns out that actually about half the buildings in Soho have this return before we get to the pilaster, and the other half don't. So the idea of having 5 equal columns with maybe a very minimal difference for the end ones is actually something that is fairly typical.
Yes, I know, but I think your
so-
middle thing would look better if you did that. I mean, yes, you're right, but then it's also the other way, and it's more gracious to have, you know, a little bit of a bookend rather than just sort of slice. That's what I would like to see.
There is actually a gap between the brick masonry and the cast iron. It's a seismic gap that's about 3 inches. So it is articulated. It probably is not as clear in these renderings, but ultimately there is an articulation there. And I will continue.
Yeah, I don't, this is all great commentary. Thank you for this critique. I think what she's referring to is more of a treatment like we see at this loft building down the block, where there's a difference in the way the corners are treated than the center pilasters. So we appreciate that comment, and we can certainly look at that.
I mean that in the best way, you know, it's not, and I guess, let's see, what else? The other comment, and then I'll let someone else go, we can talk about other things, but is at the base. Somehow, it seems like such a shame that we've lost those cast iron steps in a way. I know it's ADA and everybody wants glass. This one doesn't really have a bulkhead. It's all very sheer and transparent, and the sidewalk sort of becomes the store floor. But, you know, I like having a little more transition at the street level between the inside and the outside. And whether that would be with the material of the step or, you know, something really, not so, one dimensional. Not so flat.
I absolutely, we like that look also, but in this case, there is 5 doors, I think, from the 2 facades to the sidewalk. And so ramping to accommodate those, we'd have to ramp onto adjacent properties. It'd be very hard to do that.
Well, maybe you could do it in some other way then.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the transition I'm looking for, you know, smoke and mirrors. You put it on the, maybe it's glass vaults within each bay, you know, something like that.
I don't know whether we'll succeed. We think we know and we won't know until we do construction. We think there are filled vaults in front of the 2 buildings, and if those 2 vaults are found, our intention is definitely to put the glass light sidewalk fill and change the material, and maybe we can do it even if the vault is not found there. But I think 45 Mercer has a vault that's filled. 39 Mercer seems to have a vault. So every indication, I think, is that we will find a vault in front of both of those buildings. Since the cellars were excavated to the full 10-foot depth when the buildings were converted,
well, that would be great, but that's like extra, you know, just having some step or some expression of a step. Obviously, EDA has to take precedent, but I know you're a very capable architect. So.
Well, thank you, and yes, we will do that. I think a change of materials absolutely is a very good idea. We just probably didn't get to it yet.
Very good.
Thank you.
Brian.
Yes, thank you for an excellent presentation. You did say that none of the rear elevations or additions are seen. The back of the buildings can't be seen from any public right of way. Is that correct?
Right.
Absolutely correct.
So the hollow pilasters and hollow cornices are, to me, the most fascinating and unusual aspect of the design. I wonder if you would go to page 26 where you detail it a little bit more. Yeah, so am I to understand that in the face of the pilaster itself is hollowed out and there's, I don't know, a window or something else in there?
Right. It's well, each pilaster is two fins, vertical fins that run all the way from floor to floor. It's a single element. Some of them, as you see, are solid. That means in the back, it's about 10 feet and 10 inches in depth, or maybe 8 inches in depth. Some of them are solid, others are glass, particularly the first floor is glass to be similar to the garage door that exists now, sort of a little memory of the all glass look. And the fins continue behind the cornice line, the strip that you see that crosses in front and attached to the front of those fins. And so you see actually behind these strips, it's hollow behind there. So you see the continuation of the vertical fins that are behind the horizontal strip. So it's a really completely deconstructed version of what a classic facade is. But that you only perceive that when you look at it closely. That a casual observer, this would look like an infill building. And so I think it will fulfill these goals of preservation, which is one, to be harmonious with the historic fabric, and yet never to confuse the expert.
Well, so could you tell me why you would choose some of the pilasters on the upper floors to be windows?
Well, it is if not completely random, there is a randomness deliberately to that, even though there is a system. Again, as we go towards the top, it becomes more glass to lighten the effect. The second floor is all solid. The first floor is all glass, as said to urbanists, the glass door. And again, it goes back to that theme and variations of theme that we're doing, that the columns are variations on a solid theme, and therefore they can't be all the same. There have to be some differentiation. So they also are not random in that, for instance, the fifth floor is 2 bedrooms. So 2 bedrooms have a wall in the middle, and so that corresponds to a solid pilaster. With the 2 bedrooms, the middle of that is a glass pilaster. The space below that is a living room. It has no divisions in the middle, so therefore the pilaster in the middle is glass. The 2 flanking ones are solid. The top floor is a big open space with some skylights. So again, it is glass because it's supposed to say openness.
Did you find any examples where anybody anywhere in SoHo or any place else in the world have used these kinds of pilasters before?
Well, not exactly this, but actually right on the corner of Spring and Broadway, I think it's called the Nike building, the 529 Broadway. Jack, in the appendix, actually, I have some photographs of that. Well, curiously, I actually came up with this, but maybe in the back of my mind, I saw this already because I live and I walk by that building all the time. Yeah, keep going. That actually there we go. That is what we're not directly quoting, but this is technologically very similar to what we're doing, except this is not solid aluminum, or it's much thinner, certainly. It's shallower and it's narrower. So it looks, the overall proportion is very kind of slender and kind of slight. Ours will be full 12 inches across, 10 inches inside, 1-inch fins. But the idea of a fixed glazing between the fins Here it is, it works and it doesn't leak.
All right, thank you. You mentioned living rooms and bedrooms. Is the entire new two-building project residential except for the first floors?
Yes, and it's 5 apartments, floor throughs in each case, with the top floor being a duplex.
So, I mean, you've got internal elevators and stairs. Why are you keeping that fire escape?
First of all, it's historic, and it's an early one because I think it's actually, it may have been there from the residential portion. It's
Yeah,
so
the landmarks, sorry to interrupt, the landmarks commission would not want to see us remove the fire escape that's on 43 because it does have decorative elements. And therefore they would consider it an important piece of the evolution of the building, at least at the front facade.
we are taking off the ladder to the roof, which is a later commercial element added probably in the 20s. And we are making the bottom basket shallower because it was expanded to handle a counterbalance ladder that was installed in 47 when the building was converted to the industrial laundry. So we're going back to a drop ladder reminiscent of what used to be there in a shallower basket on the second floor.
And you're connecting the new balcony on the second floor to the old fire escape, which is actually a new fire escape, right?
That portion of it is new. Yes, we are.
Okay, that's all I've got.
Okay, I would like to get back to the concept of to a discussion of what might to a person on the street feel like a kind of a randomness. So let's talk about that random quality, which maybe isn't a random quality, with those pilasters, which ones are open, which ones are opaque behind them. Was the decision process, I understand the first one harkens to the garage door, the second one is, or the pilasters on the second floor are filled in. Once you get to the third, fourth, etc., are those decisions have really driven by interior considerations?
Well, yes, because as I said before, one of the characteristics of SoHo facades, besides their sort of salesmanship value, they are actually very frank about expressing function. And so the spec buildings that were built there, getting smaller towards the top, is a simple reflection of how much sunlight gets in at what angle to maximize the value of the floors. They made the lower floors taller. So it's again, expressing what's inside is something that SoHo facades do. And so
well, I understand that in theory. I'm just a little concerned that, that it reads in a way that is a little bit confusing and perhaps without a specific precedent. That it might appear actually random.
Oh.
Even though it isn't.
It's it doesn't have direct precedent because we don't have hollow pilasters as a direct precedent. Right. But there is a pattern to it. It's solid, then it's one solid in the middle on the second and the fifth floor, and then 2 solids in the middle. So there is actually there's a regularity to the pattern once you see it. It's kind of a lozenge shape. If you
once you get to the top floor there, what is it?
It's three glass pilasters
in the middle.
I have a question. I have a question about the pilasters. When you're saying solid and glass, you have fins. They're not steel. These are aluminum.
These are aluminum, solid aluminum, 1 inch solid. And the solid, it means the backing material is solid. There's still 8 inches deep of hollow space. It's just that the back part of it is either solid or
everything's recessed, the 8 inches, and then whether it's glass or
Right.
something else.
Yeah, that's recessed. Unlike, for instance, on the 43 facade, that is a completely solid pilaster. It's solid all the way to the front.
Get back to close up.
I'd like to speak about the pilaster since we're there and not have to go back to it. You spoke of early on about the dance connection.
Yes.
The pilaster and all its reasoning strikes me as if you see a ballet and that can't have any idea about it without reading the program notes, there's something wrong about the ballet. I think you've explained it well, and we understand what you mean, but I don't see how that pays off to one walking in the street looking at the building.
Well, I don't know that it detracts, but I had an idea of putting a little QR code about Steve Paxton on the building just to memorialize him and all the other choreographers living on Mercer Street. In fact, I had an idea of
No, that's not the point is that it's hard to understand it or to make sense of it if you haven't had this dialogue about it.
no, but you will, I think, see,
Oh,
you look at the two
everyone else
buildings
spoke
together.
adequately about it.
I'm sorry. But I'm saying when you look at the two buildings together, you may not connect it with choreography, but the fact that the pilaster on 43 is solid and it fits into the hollow space of 43, that becomes kind of obvious if you look at it for a little while. So there's a relationship there that is thematic, and I think that does come through as one of the architectural concepts.
Are there other?
Okay, Anita, you look like you have another.
No, I think just before we finish, we should talk about these cornices. And I mean, so much of it will be the angle at which you're experiencing them.
Yes.
Right, because you're seeing them from below. And I don't know if you'd ever see all these fins. I know you're trying to explain it to us in these drawings, but I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. I'm worried it might be a little, too much. I don't want it to look like an air conditioning register. That it not feel too hollow.
Well,
that the fins express a solid.
as we go up in the corners, there is a variation, and towards the top, most of the fins are horizontal. So you actually see it changes. The cornice, for instance, of the first floor, second floor, those strips are vertical. As you go up, some of them become horizontal. And when you get to the top, most of them are actually horizontal. So you will see more solidity towards the top at the angle that you're looking at. So no, I don't think this will ever look like an air conditioning grill. There's actually far more solid than there is void. But it does imply the void inside that. For instance, in this cornice on the right, as opposed to the one on the left, the one on the right is the upper floor, and you see.
That gets spray painted. Is that how you maintain these? You spray paint them, or how?
They're just painted aluminum, and the one thing about aluminum is it doesn't rust. So if gets damaged, scraped, and so on, so what? It's kind of. It's sort of maintenance is the closest thing to cast iron, because the cast iron also really doesn't rust. Aluminum oxidizes a little bit, but doesn't rust, doesn't get damaged. So a little bit of paint scrapes, it's not going to hurt it. So it's just manually painted.
And are these fins serving any purpose other than being a design element?
No other purpose.
One last question, while we're on the subject of the finish of the aluminum, what is the color?
It's not set yet. This version, it's much closer to this, a little yellower. There's a whole theory about colors, and Yablonsky, Mary Yablonsky did an article about colors in Soho and did some microscopic studies of colors. The initial colors of older buildings were always limestoney, marble, whites, and so on. Gradually, the colors became not imitative, they became more expressive of their nature, and they became more solid. I remember, when I moved to Soho in '78, I remember yellow buildings and red buildings and green buildings. They were clearly happily announcing that we are not stone, we are metal. So this is a little bit in between, but it'll be a little bit more colorful than just off-whites that you see on Green Street, for instance.
If the committee has any suggestions on color, we would love to hear it.
Okay, thank you. But when between sort of off-white and some color, there's a lot of room in there. Can you kind of point us in a direction of where you're thinking?
So I'm
Well,
not
this is
quite
a
all quite
rendering.
in the resolution.
Yeah, there is actually a color page in the appendix.
Like grays
Yeah, let
and
me get to
beige.
that.
It would be helpful if
No,
that were decided
I
before
like,
coming
I
to
think it should have not reds and blues and greens.
That's what I'm
no.
asking.
It is very close to what
Oops.
here. There are
The rendering was very, I thought that was, I mean, we're in not the greatest viewing situation. It's very too bright in here, but I think that if it has a semblance of stone, which it does,
Mhm.
you're on the right track. It shouldn't be flashy.
no, it won't be
that way.
flashy.
You have enough going on.
So
Yeah,
you're in the stone neighborhood, not the red and blue neighborhood. Okay.
Right.
Okay, we're good
All right.
now.
Thank you,
Thank you so
I
much.
think we can, is there,
I
is there
have
anything-
one thing that had been discussed. The show window on the 41, the smaller building.
33.
You showed a number of examples that don't seem to resemble this. In particular, it's the absence of what looks like even not a hint of a bulkhead or a bottom definition.
Yeah, again, because
Like
this,
an automobile showroom, maybe it's going to be.
well, it remembers the garage door that used to be there ever since 47, including, in fact, the divisions, the transom divisions that are reminiscent of a garage door that's slightly open. So it does have that memory. There is actually a strip on the bottom that's, a couple of inches.
Would the side doors be the same?
Yes.
They would have been?
They have, well, the side door, not back then. The side doors back then was, there was a single metal door with a vision panel in the original. What I'm proposing is that the doors reprise the details of the middle panel.
Yeah, we got that. Okay. Thank you. I have nothing more. Susan, if you'll go around.
All right, I see that Pete has his hand raised.
A reminder to the public, 2 minutes for each comment, not more.
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, there's something about this that's really fantastic. And that's that the architect has varied the heights of the floor to ceiling windows. So much of the new construction is very rigid with the same floor to ceiling heights on every floor. And that's just not the way buildings were built in Soho. And in fact, this building with the highest, well, maybe not the highest, but the taller windows on the top floor is very much in keeping with the building I live in, which is two buildings that were joined in around 1900 with a fifth floor added on top. And the height of my windows on the fifth floor are much higher than those on the floor below. And that's because it was an added an entire added floor across two buildings, which is not the same as here, but it gives a rhythm to the facade of the building that is really missing in much of the new construction. And so I just really applaud that. I also like the extended fire balcony, which is reminiscent of the Little Singer building, with the balconies extending across the entire facade there. And also the artist atelier addition on 43, the smaller building being 43, the one to the north, is very much in keeping, as is shown in the presentation, with the former Tiffany building at 550 Broadway, where there is an extended roof, slanted, with paneled windows, just like this, a different take on that. And
Could you wind up, please? Pete?
and thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Pete. I think there are others who have their hands raised.
Okay, let's see. All right, I'm sure if I'm sorry, it's me raising my hand. That's not helpful.
Sean Sweeney, let's call on Sean next, please.
There he is. Okay.
Okay.
He's unmuted, so.
We can hear you, Sean. Go ahead,
Okay.
thanks.
Yeah, I like this. I'll leave it to the architects in the committee to give their impressions on the details. To me, it looks exciting, and it looks SoHo. But I'm speaking not only as a member of the community board, but as the director of the SoHo Alliance. And this, I believe, the first building in SoHo to come up as new construction under the rezoning of 2021. And he could have put a 9-story building here and get more money, probably getting fantastic views, because that's the upper floors get a lot more bucks. And they're not doing that, which I think is sensitive to the community's desire not to have a big finger in the middle of a building, middle of a block. I like how they're handling the atelier, that it's reminiscent of the artistic nature of the neighborhood from the 60s, 70s, and 80s. So I think that's a plus. Oh, and by the way, that gap from Broadway, I don't even know why we're talking about that, because I remember back when that Nouvelle building was built. Oh, the rigor at Landmarks was, we have to fill in gaps. And it's city planning, all the gaps have to be filled in. But because it was the world famous architect Jean Nouvel, to let him have that gap there so his building can go higher. So I don't even think we should count that in as a view. I like the vault. Hey, bring back the vaults. We love them. In my building, we actually pay more money just to have the vaults there. It costs us a fortune every 10 years to recaulk them, but it's well worth it. Thank you very much. What else? Oh, by the way, fun fact, Alex, you know why they're all green, those buildings back in the day? Because apparently there was a contractor who had a deal on green paint, and his name got around, so he was the cheapest guy doing it, and that's how we had all those buildings with green paint.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay, thanks, Sean. Yeah, thanks. I think
I have no problem with aluminum.
Thank you, Sean. And I think we do all really appreciate the all the hard work and intention and respect for the SoHo Cast Iron District that went into this very thoughtful presentation. So anyway, thank you, Sean. Is there anybody else with a raised hand?
I don't see.
Okay, if there's nobody else who wishes to speak, then I think we will move on. We will thank our presenters.
Thank you all.
And
Thank you.
Thank you.
thank you all.
And we'll move on. Thank
And
you.
the next application is submitted on Christopher Street to construct a visible rooftop addition, raise the west side roof parapet for the addition, raise and construct a brick chimney at the east side, install visible south and west rooftop guardrails, and alter the rear facade window openings. When you're ready, please, if Everybody's.
Good evening. I'm Mary Derricks, and I'm the preservation consultant on the project. Presenting with me is Alex Dietrichson, who's here and on video. Also here from Shadow Architects is Larry Kahn, and Gloria, he is somewhere around here. I'm gonna share my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, thank you.
And thank you very much for meeting number 2. We very much appreciate it. So let me find share, and share. And view full screen. Okay. This title slide shows you what the proposal is. It's a rooftop addition that's actually mostly a stair bulkhead, plus the associated stuff, which is railings, raised parapets, and a raised chimney. This is on Christopher Street, just west of 7th Avenue. Here's an aerial view. You can see its relationship to the church. I'll explain about that. And the way the rear of the west side of the building slants away from the church. And that was to provide more light for the stained glass window. Here it is in 1940. The building was built in 1868, designed by John Foster as a parsonage for the adjacent church, which dates from 1821 to 22. It was the 8th Presbyterian Church, and today it's known as St. John's Lutheran Church. I just want to say, because one of the things is establishing a front parapet. You can see the side parapet here extending just a little bit above the cornice, and it's hard to tell, but I think it continues along the above the cornice, and now there is no parapet there. Here's it today. It's no longer a parsonage. I don't know when that happened, but it was one in 1969 at designation. It's a pretty intact building, and nothing's being done to the front. Here's the rear. We are doing, things are being done to the front, but not public hearing. Windows and not much else. The rear is peculiar, befitting the unusual nature of the building. Nothing at public hearing, but the windows are going to be changed. Alex Dietrichson is going to describe the project.
Thank you, Mary. Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing us to present our townhouse design today, and we're excited to talk to you about our project. Just very quickly, as Mary mentioned, our townhouse is quite unique in its history and proximity to the adjacent church. And as a result, it features a number of unique characteristics that we love as architects and want to celebrate and highlight through our design. So to move to the major component of the exterior work, which is the addition of a rooftop penthouse that you see in the renderings. This penthouse came about as a result of our client's request for a safer access route to the roof, which is currently limited to a hard to reach and not very safe roof hatch. So the penthouse you see here sits directly on top of a new staircase leading from the 3rd floor up to the roof, which in turn is located over top of the existing original stair core on the floors below, leading from the parlor floor up to the 3rd floor. So this interior element is what drives the location of the penthouse, which is approximately set back approximately 2/3 of the way back from the front of the roof. And there'll be a roof plan a couple slides down where we can where you can see the actual setback distance. Although we did consider a smaller stair bulkhead to cover the stair initially, The size of the bulkhead would interfere with the required adjacent New York City Fire Department path across the roof to the rear of the property. But the way the code is set up, if your structure extends across the width of the building of the roof, it changes the pathway for the firemen from going around the structure to going over the roof. And likewise, if the roof of your structure is pitched at more than 20 degrees, then this pathway changes from going over the roof to through the building. So these code requirements or stipulations are what drove the footprint of the penthouse and the shape of the roof. One of the items we responded to that Mary also referenced earlier related to building form is how our penthouse tapers towards the rear of the building, away from the adjacent roof, so as to avoid blocking the stained glass windows. We love this feature of the building, and wanted to highlight and celebrate that. The western wall of our penthouse, rather than being stepped in, actually extends directly above and aligned with the existing building west wall. And it also follows the form of the penthouse, elbowing in towards the rear. That western wall that you're looking at features two openings. One is a casement window into the interior of the penthouse, and the other one is an opening in the extension of the western wall, which extends past the interior portion of the penthouse, and which frames the penthouse roof. Both of these openings frame views of the adjacent church steeple, which is another feature that we love. On the east side of the penthouse, the penthouse is anchored by a new brick chimney, which will be carrying flue ducts for gas fireplaces on the townhouse interior. This chimney terminates aligned with the adjacent neighboring parapet wall. And then there will be stainless steel extensions extending an additional 3 feet above that by code. The brick of the chimney will approximate the look and color of the existing chimney further north on the roof, as well as the neighboring building's facade. So the penthouse and chimney are meant to blend in with their most adjacent surroundings. And other elements on the roof, that some of which Mary already mentioned already, are the railings, metal railings, which line the south side and west side of the occupiable roof space in front of the townhouse. These railings will be mounted to the inside face of existing parapets, as well as the new parapet briefly mentioned to fill in the space at the front of the roof. Okay, next slide. So here you see bird's eye views of the rear of the building. Important to note that none of the scope shown here is visible from any public thoroughfare. On the right-hand rendering, you see clearly how our building tapers in and how our townhouse follows the shape of our building. There is a small area north of our townhouse dedicated to mechanical equipment. And the penthouse roof features a skylight on the north end. All the remainder of the scope at the rear of the building, which is mostly limited to window and door replacements, will be reviewed at staff level. Next. So these are the front elevations, existing and proposed, and They show the remainder of the scope at the front of the building. We have the penthouse with the metal and glass assembly at the front. We have the metal railings in front of that and the added parapet. And we're also proposing to replace non-historic windows on the second and third floor of the front of the townhouse. Next. The rear elevation, again, just to reiterate, the scope here is going to be reviewed at staff level and is mostly limited to window and door replacements. Next. For the east and west elevations, our penthouse is actually obscured by neighboring buildings. So what we've done here is we've drawn the silhouette of the adjacent building and ghosted it in so that you can see the penthouse beyond. So this is the view looking east, showing our penthouse with the two aforementioned openings and the chimney beyond. And then on the next slide, next slide shows the western view, again, ghosted neighboring building. You see the two chimneys with the outline of our penthouse roof anchored between the two of them. Next slide. Here's the roof plan that I mentioned earlier. Again, you see clearly the tapering of our building and our penthouse following that shape. And if you go back to the from the front of the building to the back of the front of the building, the penthouse facade, it's about 17 feet, and then about a setback, and then about 12.5 feet to the extended western wall. Okay, next. These are two sections showing existing and proposed conditions, and really the main thing to consider here is or note is this new staircase from the third floor to the penthouse, and how it sits directly over top of the existing stair core below, which is again what dictated the location of the penthouse. Okay, next. In terms of materiality, again, the brick will approximate the color and look of the existing chimney on the north end of the roof, as well as the neighboring brick facade and on the east side of our roof. And this is the most visible facade from the street, as well as from the roof level. And we will provide brick samples of the chosen kind. The penthouse doors, windows, standing seam roof, as well as the roof railings are called out to be a charcoal metal finish, whereas the various parapet copings, as well as the terrace pavers, are called out to be bluestone to match the existing bluestone found on the roof today. And next. And here you see just an example of the metal roof, standing seam metal roof that will be on our penthouse. Again, at the north end of our roof, we have a skylight, and the south end is a perfect location for photovoltaics. Okay. We have two elevations showing sight lines from across the street, and you can see how the direct line of sight kind of misses the penthouse, although we did have a one-to-one physical mock-up built of our penthouse. And I think Mary's gonna speak a little bit more to that in the next slides.
Thanks, Alex. We built a mock-up, and probably somebody's been over to look at it. It's quite a good one. You can't see it, this is the front view, you can't see it, but you can see the new chimney, which is gonna be brick. There's a view from 7th Avenue because of the low-rise Andy's Deli. So I'm calling it the Andy's Deli view. If you'll notice, this is existing. If you'll notice, you can actually see the buildings, the taller buildings from behind, or one taller building from behind number 79. So the roof is already in the context of taller buildings. This is the view. It's mock-up and montage from over Andy's Deli from 7th Avenue. This is the zoom, which of course you'll only see if you're walking around with binoculars. This is a view that shows the full building, the full width of the building on the left, but shows a bit less of the addition. And it's the same, mock-up and montage. And this is the zoom mock-up and montage, which you wouldn't be seeing. This is from the corner, this from Sheridan Square, from the corner of Grove and Christopher. And you can see the front railing from there, because the whole Sheridan Square area is very wide open. This is from just down Christopher, a little bit down to the west, over the church, basically. It's hard to see. This is the best it's ever going to get because most of the leaves are gone. But you can see clearly see the penthouse and the chimney and the railing. And here's a close-up, which gives you a somewhat better view of what you would see, kind of just a little bit past the church. There you have it, just a little bit past the church. You can see the chimney from all the way down Christopher at Bleecker and even a little bit beyond Bleecker. So kind of over a block away. The Landmarks has approved a number of visible rooftop additions that have slanted roofs that are reminiscent of studio windows. This is at 427 West 4th, and this other one is 44 Horatio Street, and they are visible. And this is 65 Horatio Street, which was you've seen recently. This one's at 46 Jane, which is still under construction. But this one was interesting because they kind of came to the same design decision. It's mainly a bulkhead. I think it's elevator and stair bulkhead. And they did this so they didn't have to do a lot more other stuff for DOB regulations. It has a bit less visibility. And this is a reminder of the typical historic visible studio windows in the village. That those three McDougal, I could only see two of them. They still look pretty much the same. That's our presentation. Thank you very much.
I have a few questions, please. What is the width of the building?
Alex?
It's about
Width
15,
of the building.
it's about 15 feet.
And could you go, please, to the plan view of the addition? There. Can you explain about the if you'll contrast the staircase itself that provides access from the floor below to the roof level, what it is about the fire department regulations that require it to be the full width opposite just having a stair bulkhead?
Alex, do you want me to go to that design page?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, we actually have.
What I understood was it has to be full width because of the going across or through.
Yeah, so this is a diagram that we initially submitted to LPC, and it shows the footprint of the staircase, within those parameters that I mentioned earlier, respecting the existing interior elements. And this is essentially for a bulkhead, the minimum footprint. And the hatched area with the diagonal lines represents the required FDNY rooftop access clear path. So our initial design did not extend all the way across, but we ran into this issue, and as a code issue, which is what led us to extending the footprint of the structure. And I think, Mary, actually, if you go to the next page, this now shows it's a rooftop view, and also shows the ridge of the roof with the staircase dashed below. And yeah, that's how we arrived
Okay,
at.
but in the one with the hatching, I think back one. Right. And that the problem with the fire wouldn't be satisfied by simply extending the part that looks toward the top of the page to the property line. Is that right?
In which direction?
Didn't you say you
Where
had
your
to go?
arrow is if you go straight up to extend the
The way they designed
turn
it,
where you
right?
arrive on the roof, if that extended to the property line, would that not satisfy the getting across?
Well,
But I'm trying to understand is why the entire
are you
depth
talking
of
about further?
of the staircase is required to satisfy the fire department regulations.
Oh, Alex, there is because you've seen a lot of these bulkheads, the DOB has changed the requirements for bulkheads, and they're a lot bigger now. Is that, Alex, is that the?
Okay, no, I'm simply saying that if the top of the L, if we think of this as an L on its side, it were extended straight up to the property line, would that not require fulfill the requirement
On which
of the
property?
going over?
To the rear?
Yeah, no, yeah.
Are you
Yes,
saying
yes, Janelle.
I'm sorry, I can't
if it can,
straight on the
I guess
screen.
if you could
But
say
if that pink area extended straight up the page to the edge of the building there, why does that not satisfy the fire
That's
department?
only part of the stair.
Well, and then the other one isn't in the way. Yeah, there you go. That's what he's saying.
Okay, so if that were the structure, this all goes back to the visibility.
Right,
If
yeah.
that were the structure, would that satisfy this not totally clear fire department regulation?
You'd still see it.
Yeah, but it's,
I suppose
No.
potentially we would have to look at the yeah, I think if we went all the way across, yeah.
Okay, so you've elected to fill in to make what we're seeing now to be a rectangle to make more room up there. I'm not arguing a point, I'm just trying to get straight
Right. Larry, can you weigh in on this?
what's necessary for the regulation and
Yeah.
what is a part of the design.
Sorry to just step in here. Fully agreed that this could be done. But I shouldn't say that for sure, but I believe it could be pursued, that if it just went in this extended L shape, I think there's a loss of architecture and the feeling of the original space. Like currently you've got this winding stair that goes up and it's got a skylight above. And to reduce that to just call it this minimum L shape, I think would be a bit disappointing for the townhouse. It
Hey,
does.
that's not the point. The
Uniform.
point is simply to get the
Yeah,
fire regulation.
But to answer your question, I don't think we actually did consider this, but I think your understanding of the issue is correct.
Okay. The other, I won't speak about anything else yet. Then we'll have the rest of the committee.
All right, Anita, do you have something?
Yeah, I think it's too tall. There's no reason to have such a housey house, big pitch. Cause the visibility, especially from the church side, which is really the one, that's highly visible, is bigger, but you know what it does? It makes the whole rest of the house look teeny tiny. It should be very much more like the other one you showed, which is almost like flat and sort of trying to sink into the roof and not this kind of pitched house addition. It should look more industrial and more stair bulkheady. This is more like a room, a lounge or greenhouse or something. So that would be, I think it's bigger, I think it's taller than it needs to be. It could be flattened out. And just to go back to this fire access, this design and even the other one that Chanel was suggesting, you still would need to go through the building, right, to get to the back. You're not going over the roof, are you?
Opening the roof?
No, I said you're not going, you gave us 3 examples.
Yep,
And one of them was going through the building to get to the back
that's right.
as an option, right?
Yep.
Right? Okay,
Yeah.
so that's that. Or over the roof. And I guess this is I don't know what those regulations are, but maybe this becomes a big hike. It's a much bigger roof structure than most bulkheads. This is a penthouse for sure, not a bulkhead.
Well, we're calling it a penthouse, but we are explaining why we're doing it. But it is considered a habitable space by DOB and thus by landmarks. But it is not like somebody's bedroom.
No, I know.
This is what I'm trying to understand is where does a bulkhead end and a penthouse begin? So Mary, if you could help me understand where the border line is, when does a bulkhead become a penthouse?
Yeah, that's a good one. And I know for sure DOB says it's a penthouse and thus Landmark says it's a penthouse. But I think Alex or Larry, you'll have to help me on why. I know the one at 46 Jane was also considered like a penthouse or rooftop addition and not a bulkhead, even though the primary use was as a bulkhead. But Larry or Alex, I think what you have to explain is the DOB regulations.
Right. Yeah, it is a DOB sort of category issue. And as far as we know, based on our what we've been told from our code consultants, there's 3 categories. It's the bulkhead, the penthouse, and the floor. It goes from a bulkhead to a penthouse, as far as we understand, when you extend it to the entire width of the roof. But we had to keep the floor print of the penthouse to 1/3 or less of the entirety of the roof floor area. So if you go more than 1/3, then it's considered a floor, and then it kicks in other requirements from the DOB. So those are the 3 categories. If you extend across your entire roof, then it's a penthouse, but it needs to be within 1/3 of the roof area.
if you were to do, is it possible to do simply a bulkhead here? And not extend the full width of the house?
Well, no, not that we understand. I think if if we did the shape that Chanot suggested, that would still be considered a penthouse. And and to Larry's point, I think I it would still be visible, and I would part of our goal, knowing that okay, when it's a penthouse, it's going to be visible, is we wanted to create something that feels part of the building. It's not trying to blend in with the building, but it doesn't feel like it feels like it fits in. And so like this L shape, I would feel to me a little bit foreign in relation to the adjacent context.
Yeah, okay, I know, thank you for that explanation. I think, you know, what's tricky is that it winds up seeming very important. And since it's visible, everybody can see that it looks like a sort of important structure. And we're used to a sort of bulkhead having a more functional kind of identifiable as bulkhead look. And then when they're visible, that's a more acceptable kind of way of being visible, as if it's a functional bulkhead. But this is in some weird land in between the two, but I understand it's a unique situation. All right, thank you.
Mary, do you mind going to page 7, please? Just to, I just want to, we wanted to explain the project as best as possible because it's not visible. But I think this image on the bottom left is something we should be considering, right? This is actually the view that you would have from the street. If you look on the left-hand side. We wanted to show the image that is repeated here in the middle, just so you fully understood what we were proposing. But from the street, the view is really what you see on the left.
Okay.
And then the 7th Avenue view has to be.
What about
The 7th Avenue view is agreed from further away. Yep, exactly.
Wait, what do we see from 7th Avenue? Can we see that again, please?
From the across the top of the delicatessen.
Or the other one from the corner.
There.
So that is considerably more visible.
And then also from what used to be Gold's Gym. I don't know what it is now. Down that
While we're on
street.
this picture, the question of the glass front comes up. This is more what we would normally see at the back of a penthouse, where it really didn't show from anywhere. And here we're seeing a glass wall. So that would be another question.
Yeah, and I think we're also seeing a standing seam metal roof, a decent amount of brick, a bluestone coping. So we're trying to also introduce elements that you see elsewhere in the neighborhood in our building.
Yeah. Yeah, I would agree with that. Some of those references that Mary showed in those beautiful skylights and large windows in the original buildings. You had that page, Mary, that had 4 images. I think it was in that one there. And you look at the amounts of glass you see there. Like, we believe these are original structures. And so I think, particularly, well, all of these, I think they really do have a relationship to what we're proposing in terms of the amounts of glass.
Oh, I'm not disputing the amount of glass. It's simply that it is a modern use of a lot of glass.
Got it. Okay.
Essentially a window wall. We can discuss all this in the business session later.
Okay.
Are there further questions from the committee?
Brian, do you know? Okay, let's move on to.
Wait, I'm sorry. I just would like to rule out the possibility of shifting the bulk to the back of the house. Looks like from the wall, that's probably not a practical solution to minimizing the view.
Yeah.
Or the stair.
So yeah, that's what said it, and
Because of that pie
apart-
shape.
apart from respecting the existing interior elements, we would run into head height issues. Actually, we have a diagram of this, Mary. If you go one all the way down to the other diagrams, and one more after that, yeah. So we have head height clearances that we would run into issues at the existing staircase if we started moving that further north. So to us, the most sensible solution was to continue the existing original core for our new stair.
Okay, I think that's clear.
Okay.
And just for our later discussions, there's not a physical or regulation or anything problem with flattening the roof. Is that correct? That's just a design, the fact that it's pitched.
Well, I mean, if we, it's it has many utilities. It doesn't. There is, if we do a flat roof, then again the path, we'd have to create a path over top of the roof, which has a lot of implications on other elements such as the skylight. And there's shading. The pitched roof creates shading for the interior of our townhouse, which will get very,
Yeah.
very warm. And so there's many
Yeah.
reasons for why that is pitched.
Yeah,
Okay.
just to explain that a bit further, and we were trying to keep this a bit abbreviated, so we didn't get into this detail. But if there's a flat roof, then the fire department will want to go over it, and so therefore you need ladders on the front and the back, and you need guardrails on top of that, so that the fire department personnel don't fall off the side. So suddenly now we would have a flat roof with guardrails on the two sides, and so with the simple move of adding a 20-degree pitch, which is the lowest you need to do this, that is what kicks in the fire department then going through the building. And so you no longer need the ladders and you no longer need the guardrails at the high roof, which is what we wanted to try avoid.
Sure.
Okay, thank you.
All right, is there anybody from the public with a raised hand?
I don't see any.
Please raise your hand if you would like to speak.
I'm not
All right, we don't see any raised hands. So we will thank our applicants and move on.
All right, thank you
you.
so much.
Or there was no one, Susan. Okay,
Correct.
thank you very much. I'm a near neighbor of this, so I see it every day.
Okay.
All right.
All right, thank you all.
Thank you.
The application is 390 Avenue of the Americas. Application to replace the existing second and third floor ribbon fixed windows, replace ground floor entrance storefront, install new windows and doors, enlarge the stair bulkhead, and privacy fence on the third floor rooftop. Thank you. Well, would you please begin, just because that's the way the resolution needs to be written, with explaining the change of use? Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep.
Great. I'm Joanna Gulik. I'm with William Ledger Architect. Thank you, Community Board, for hearing our application today. One correction to the description is that the storefront entry on the ground floor storefront entry has been filed under a separate application, so that has been removed from our scope of work. So I'll start with, let me share. Sorry. Can you see my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Excellent. Okay. So the proposed work site is located at 388, 390 Avenue of the Americas between Waverly Place and West 8th Street on the east side of 6th Avenue. Within the boundary of the Landmarks Preservation Commission designated Greenwich Village District Extension. The site, the building was built in 1956 as the West Side Savings Bank. The building is a 4-story high, prominent, modernistic design with a simple, unadorned structure, likely emphasize functionality and clean lines. So it's a quality that we attempt to closely adhere to. The building's west facade, Avenue of the Americas facing, is defined by large glass areas on each floor. So 1, 2, 3, 4 floors with a light color horizontals contrasted against a dark vertical tower at the south end. The tower is still displays, or it has a remnants of a display of the name of the bank on each face of the building of the granite tower, and a combination of time temperature reading device, which is no longer in a working state. So this is a beautiful 1960s designation photo. There was some alteration done in the 80s, which remains to this day. So you can no longer see remnants of the aluminum sign that was pinned to the front facade originally. So you can see the site is surrounded mostly by 4 or 5-story buildings with 2 9-story towers. Just for context, we're not proposing a vertical enlargement at this time. We completed mock-ups, reviewed them with Michelle Craren from LPC. We can come back to this. So we can talk about the building. So the building is located at a meeting point of, it's a very visible site, right? Not only because the building is so prominent in its design, but it's also located at the meeting point of diagonals of Greenwich Avenue, Christopher Street, 6th Avenue, Waverly Place, and West 8th Street. So it has a high visibility, as you can see from all the pictures. So the proposed work involves change of use to the 3rd and the 4th floor from commercial to residential, which is as of right use. The proposed design elements are mostly a consequence of this change, namely the 10% light, really more importantly, 5% ventilation in the living space. The first 2 floors will remain commercial, and hence the second application with the landmarks, multiple applications for this building. So we proposed, this is kind of a background of combining these 3 zoning lots to create one with the one interior lot. Corner lot number 1 is not part of the scope. So as you can see, the building is visible, very visible from multiple view corridors. Back of the building, east facade, which is not visible from any of the view corridors. Great views from the building itself. Okay, so there are 3 elements of the proposal that are subject matter of this for the submission. The first one that we'd like to discuss is the new operable windows at the west facade, so the 6th Avenue facing facade. So this is, then after that, we'll discuss the proposed privacy fence and the back facade enlargement. So the ribbon windows, we are proposing to add operable windows to provide ventilation to the spaces, to the living spaces on the inside. The proposed design maintains the windows within the existing masonry opening, so everything is kept. The facade is kept as is within. So the windows are done all within the existing masonry opening. We keep the width of the new operable ventilators to minimum to leave remaining fixed glazing to a maximum as possible. The proposed design maintains the anodized aluminum modern aesthetic, as is all the fenestration that we propose.
And how are these openings operated?
The casement windows, they open in. So we try to maintain a similar sight line where possible. You know, of course, we're changing for you know, thermal properties. This is obviously going to be an IGU. We're proposing anodized aluminum number 14, so it has very high quality thick anodization. Yeah. So the second element is to add privacy screens at 2 terraces on 388 portion of the building to provide privacy between 2 residential terraces. And then we propose same visual screens at the mechanical units at the fourth floor of the building. These 4 screens shield condensers for the residential individual compressors and a large chiller unit servicing the first and the second floor restaurant, which is under construction right now. So these screens are actually only slightly visible from the surrounding streets from a distance. We can go back to the views from the view corridors in a minute. And so it's basically off the shelf item, a privacy screen between the tenants as well as the rooftop mechanical.
And they're in this dark gray.
We're proposing a dark gray. The third part of the submission is I think the best way to show it maybe would be from in plan. Is a visibility of a small horizontal enlargement of the 2 floors, third and the fourth floor, which is approximately 441 square feet per floor, above an existing 2-story rear portion of the building. This enlargement is also as of right, and it is to provide an egress hallway and stair on those 2 floors connecting to an existing egress passage on the north side of the building going into 6th Avenue. And this portion of this enlargement, though quite prominent from bird's eye view or from a plan view, you know, providing the necessary egress, is actually, and it's shown here in section. I'll go back to our view corridor, and you can see that from Christopher
Enlarge
Street,
the one you're showing.
Greenwich Street, right here. Can you see my mouse?
Yes.
Could you just enlarge that portion of the screen.
How can I?
Okay, if not, we'll carry on.
That might take a minute. It's not so.
Okay, just carry on.
I mean, though the in elevation, this portion of the enlargement is about 91 square feet. We're approximating that it's only showing maybe 20 to 40 square feet from the street. Similarly, you can see the privacy fence on the rooftop is visible against the background of the 9-story building beyond. The privacy fence on the second floor, so between the two tenants of the terraces, is quite visible. There is, we discussed possibly reducing it to a hedge or something like that, if that proves to be an issue. So again, the finish is kind of the main alteration to the building is this kind of change of this large glass panels to incorporate event. And the front facade stone is going to be washed. We're not proposing to change any of the facade besides the windows, the fenestration, making it operable, portion of it operable. And we try to maintain the symmetry of these operables to kind of create a rhythm, so not to make it too distracting. The rest of the facade, where we propose punched openings, again, we're going to carry the anodized aluminum material to all of the finishes for the fenestration, and we're going to match the new portion of the building to the existing stucco, and we are going to redo all of the facade in a 3-coat stucco to match the existing color. And I believe that's it. We thank the committee for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Nice.
Are there visibility, pictures about the visibility?
Yes. This is a visible portion of the enlargement. And you can see, so it's basically these two pictures that show the visibility of all of the elements. So again, this is a
Excuse me, would you mind zooming in on that? Yeah, it's good to see.
So these are the pictures. Okay, we've had them.
I see.
Okay,
Of course, there's
Susan, are there questions?
Conchal, let's see if it's possible to zoom in on that visibility, because
yeah.
I think we'd all like to see that a little bit better.
You got it, okay. I can do it from here.
There you go.
That's it. I don't know.
Okay, so this is looking
Here. Yeah.
southeast, so you can see the enlargement right here.
Got it.
And this is the privacy screen on the 4th floor rooftop. And again, you can see the privacy screen looking northeast. This is screening the condensers. Oh, sorry, this is the restaurant equipment. And this is the screen for the tenant terrace. It's a 6 foot.
The great long one is a privacy screen where your hand is now.
That's right. This is it.
That's all. That's enclosing that entire area is privacy, correct?
It's enclosing a terrace.
And how high is that?
For privacy for the tenants, so that they can enjoy their terrace.
Right, I understand what the purpose, but
You know, I asked
that
how
big,
high
the L shape is one expanse.
That's right. This is one expanse, and this is
Okay,
all in the background of the building, right, of the facade. So we're hoping that that would be, you know,
we understand the purpose of all, just
yeah.
to be clear on what we're seeing.
Just, I guess the point that I was trying to make is that it's not against, you don't see it against the sky, right? So at every point, you kind of see it against the building. So this fence is against this wall. And so is this one looking southeast.
Okay, Susan from.
Yeah, can you tell us, please, how high that privacy fence
6
is?
feet.
And I'm not sure, pardon me?
It's 6 feet high.
6 feet, thank you. And I'm not sure I understand what the material is.
It's a composite. It's an off-the-shelf product. So it's, I'll show you. I can pull up a spec.
That'd be great, thank you.
But it's a composite product with a screen on the top.
Does it look like wood?
It's supposed to look kind of like a pickled wood, like a washed wood.
Wood patterned, we might say.
Wood patterned.
Okay, thank you. Anita?
Yes, I'd like to talk about the windows, the ribbon oldie-timey windows, 60s windows. My question is, did you experiment with different widths and different operations? My concern is that these windows are like 1 foot, a foot and a half, 17 inches, minus frame, minus this, minus that, so it's really a kind of a sliver. And then it's 7 feet tall. So it's really gonna catch the wind if they crank it open. And I just wondered, the picture that you show, I don't know where we've had it, but where one part of the window is opera, yeah, like that. Or it's, you know, that's more practical. 7 feet by 12, 14 inches is a very strange, super tall, difficult operable window. And also, I think it looks very skinny.
We did experiment with breaking up the facade a little bit, but we, again, because the original facade is so incredibly minimal, you know, it's such a like clean, it has such clean modernist lines. We really wanted to retain these clean modernist lines as much as possible.
Yeah, I think I understand that. I don't think you are, though. I think you're making it really busy with a very narrow, busy window that has to do all this stuff, when maybe ease up a little bit and it would still look like a ribbon window. I don't think there's anything religious about this. You know, a ribbon window is a strip of glass. Depending on how you divide it, it's divided up because wood glass is only so big, so.
Right. I mean, also it was important for us to keep the consistency, and so this particular dimension corresponds to the requirement. So the interior requirement of
see.
air. And it does
Uh,
vary a little bit based on the interior, but we wanted to keep it consistent, so we based it on a largest panel that was required in this particular facade. And we just we repeated it.
Well, it feels like you're just making the minimum and you took care of that problem and that's that. But maybe the facade and the actual strip could benefit with a little, maybe a little more generosity on the percentage of opening, you know, it's doesn't really matter, as long as you meet the minimum, you can go over.
The percentage of opening, so have more of the opening, more air?
Yeah, I think the windows are too narrow and too tall,
I see.
and that's all, that's the bottom line, that's what I think. And it makes it very busy around like the middle there. It doesn't look, it looks probably busier than you think it is.
Can we finish this in the business session then?
Yep, sure.
Thank you, thanks. Brian, do you have anything?
No.
No? Okay, Chenault, are those all of your
Yes,
questions?
I visited today. I frankly expected better pictures. The privacy screens are a sea of orange.
Uh-huh,
There's a lot of area covered, and particularly the one that I pointed out in the big L shape on top of the lower building.
right.
What did you say, a sea of
It's
what?
a lot of stuff.
Orange.
Orange.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I can't describe it otherwise.
Okay, thanks.
Right.
I'm just gonna ask one last question and then we'll move
I
to the
understand
public.
about it all, but it just is a great deal of presence on the rooftops.
Yeah, and given that, I have a question for the applicant. You had said something about you might consider a hedge as an alternative to that. Are you talking about considering like living landscaping as an alternative to that?
possibly a lower, like a 3-foot, whether it's a living hedge or just a 3-foot green, fake hedge. Just something to reduce the impact on the street or the visibility from the street. Just
So you would
work on
consider
that.
a 3-foot fake hedge?
That's right. So maybe just a portion of it, right? Just for one. So there's still a privacy screen between two tenants, but there isn't necessarily one at the front of the building, on the side of the building. So the one tenant can just have a lower hedge, still retain a privacy between them and a neighbor.
I see. Okay, thank you. Is there anybody from the public who wishes to speak?
Not seeing any hands.
I do not see any raised hands. So, thank you. Thank you for your presentation, and I think
Thank
we
you.
can go into this session now.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
thank you.
She could take this presentation down.
Okay.
Yeah, you can take the presentation down now, thanks. Okay, thank you.
Mercer Street, if we can go through the order of the presentation. No objection to demolishing the garage, I assume.
Correct.
The rooftop addition at number 43. And
No,
end
I
here
would-
in particular.
it looked good.
And it goes back and forth a little bit. Let's finish 43. I understood about my ground floor window, but I don't think it looks very nice. it's again one of those things of it doesn't look like a historic garage entrance. It looks like a one for
Well,
the moment.
Yeah, I think it's the transition again between the inside and the out, and that there's no, in the olden days, there was a step or a change in material or a bulkhead. Everything is so, what's the word?
Continuous.
And
It's the thing we run into so often is what's the difference between a void and a big window? And this is definitely the void side.
And the garage, it's gone. Let's give it up. That garage door was there. It was utilitarian. This building has nothing to do with the garage door.
Yeah, we don't feel sentimental about the garage door.
It's not a good inspiration for it either. It should just, I think all in all, I actually like that, bringing back like that arched top, and those are all nice features, but the transition at the sidewalk level is really too thin.
Yeah, I think
That
we
means there's
could-
no bulkhead.
Yes, I mean, at least that the window and door frames should have some solid element at the bottom. And suggest maybe 8 inches or something.
Well, a
yeah,
framed window with a bulkhead, is that what you're saying?
Thing to
Yeah.
anchor it.
Yes.
Let's honor Doris here.
And that this same thing should be reflected in the doors.
Yes,
Yes.
Give the building a base.
Are there other things about this building at all?
No, I like it. I thought it's fine.
Okay,
It's all good. Brett, it's reusing it.
Just for discussion, I would just like to ask how others feel about in 41, the variations within the pilasters, the variations in the
oh, I'm
handling.
sorry, the visibility, I think we buy.
Attention, girl.
Sorry,
I'm only kidding.
I'm really sorry.
Okay, the famous pilasters.
You walked into that one. Oh.
Who wants to talk about the pilasters?
Oh, we're on, you're on.
Just got ahead of myself. Okay, so how does everybody feel about that? Obviously, we understand that whether they're kind of solid or not is driven by the interior concerns. We understand that interior concerns were important historically, but I think that's a little bit of an abstruse point in terms of what a person on the street is going to experience here. So what do we think? How do we think that's going to read and look?
My view is that we're concerned with historic preservation and not storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, it's
on
not
a
historic.
practical level, it's going to look weird at night.
Right.
Especially.
Nothing was shown to illustrate interior illumination. And one can imagine people putting a neon tube in it or something. I just think it's a terrible idea.
It's already so innovative. It's already, wow, what is that, what's going on here?
Exciting, yeah.
That we really don't need much more to make it exciting. I think there's a lot going on in this facade that is not ordinary and not specifically historic, maybe historically inspired, but in a different vocabulary, different way.
Brian?
And the rest that's going on has some reasonable extraction from the historic.
Yeah.
In an accessible way, yes, it's accessible. Visually accessible without, a QR code, with all due respect to a really marvelous choreographer.
yeah. So I'm I'm kind of torn between the fact that we're doing something contemporary and modern and innovative, with a hint or a bit of a reflection on historic cast iron facades. But keeping it very modern and contemporary. And I just, I'm not sure how it's gonna come across if the pilasters are changed from something that was seen as a structural element into something that's flimsy looking and transparent. And you know, when it gets too thin and flimsy looking, it's wow, it's just gonna be so unusual. And and of course, we have a lot of variety in the village and in SoHo and Chinatown and in our district. That's part of the beauty of our neighborhood, is so much variety and unusual things and different ages and so on. So I don't want to suppress that. I just don't know how it's gonna work out. I just don't.
Well, no, your point is excellent, because it's almost making a statement, well, it's not really structural. This is just a facade, we're just having a little fun and showing how it could be interpreted abstractly. But it is nice to express the structure and to give the confidence that there's actually something, you know, carrying it, even if the cast iron facades were only carrying themselves. But they felt substantial.
Yeah, that's a great point that we both are making.
You know,
Well, as we're
What do we
discussing
say?
it,
we don't redesign it, though.
well, I think as we're discussing it,
Right, I mean,
it's,
how do we conclude how much of it to buy and how we draw the line?
Yeah, so what I'm saying in my inner conflict, is that as long as it's not violating or it's out of character with the neighborhood, we leave the design fine points to the designers. I think that's where I would have to fall on this one. There's enough that reflects the character of the neighborhood, without mimicking anything or without, you know, trying to do an exact facsimile. So, you know, I think
Well,
I'm falling on the side of the uniqueness within that character.
and we were forever asking, show us the historic inspiration or background for this, and they did that right off the bat, and it's clear what the line is.
yeah, I think it's
The two things that
overall,
that are aside from the pilasters, the transparent ones, is I'm not sure about the fins, but we're not looking at the fins from 6 inches away as the pictures were.
Well, that's the design. Yeah, that's it. It's instead of solid, it's a void. You know, it's your eye filled it in as a solid in a way. You're sort of connecting the dots in your mind rather than on the building. But that's kind of cool. You know, the rhythm, the size, the modulation, like Brian so beautifully said, there's enough to connect it to the historic precedent that, yeah, okay, check, you know, it doesn't have to be, it can go a little bit somewhere else if it's done by the same creative mind and so on. So if it's done well, I guess is the idea. It's gonna be very busy to
And
have these
they're two
solid
detached.
voids Lloyd.
Sorry,
I just would like to say that as we're discussing this, first of all, I think it's fantastic proposal, and I think it, really does feel like it comes from a really respectful place in terms of the historic district, and from a very creative place at the same time. And I think, that's a pretty good trick. And I think that is to be admired. But I will say that the transparent pilasters are bothering me in the sense that the idea in concept, I think it's great. When I think about what it's actually going to look like, and when I think about what it's actually going to look like at night, and I find them objectionable, and I think that they should not be transparent.
okay, then are we in accord on the facade except for the windowed pilasters?
Well, I,
Do you want them to,
Oh,
you want to deny anything else
no. No.
of that?
nothing.
There are two other, there's some details,
Yeah,
but
no,
it's
it's
the
fine.
overall.
I'm not denying it,
Okay,
sure.
there are two things on the, down on the floor, the ramp.
It's fine.
Pretty subtle.
Yeah,
It's fine.
fine.
I suppose it's not a case where the inside can solve it.
No, that's fine.
The
It-
sidewalk slopes.
It's somehow we think of ramps as retrofitted, the idea of one to begin with, that's such a glued on one, but perhaps there's no other.
This one's pretty elegant.
Yeah, I thought so too.
It's,
The sidewalk light, vault lights, I got confused as to what I was hearing.
well, it's not part of this application. It's a nice idea. I think it came out of wanting to maybe add some of that in the transition between the store and the sidewalk. In other words, and within each bay.
Right,
could
he said they
have
hadn't looked at
something.
it. So, that's just not to be mentioned, because it would
Not
just.
the vault, we're not going to the vault, cause we don't know that, we
Right.
don't know what that is.
Well, they don't, because they
I
don't know what
believe
they're.
we've covered it all, have we not?
Yes,
Is anything outstanding in someone's mind?
no,
Turned out not to
it's-
be such a difficult thing.
we're good.
I'm happy that we accepted the balance between how much adaptation there is and how much inspiration there is. I think
Mhm.
on Christopher Street, is there any issue aside from the visibility? And is there any suggestion to lessen that?
I
And
have
how
a
does it-
suggestion.
How does it fit with precedent when somebody else comes with a pointy house on top of a house and says, would you approve that one for visibility and ours should be approved too? I mean, it's clearly from a Seventh Avenue is totally visible.
Yes, as we were talking about that, Chanel, I was looking at the images. And you were asking them to look at setting it back and making it more like a bulkhead. I did visualize, so the thing that stood out to me the most is on the left side, as you're looking from the street. They extended the west wall. Had a little bit of a railing opening, but basically they built another brick wall out at the edge of the roof. And that corner then became very dominant. There's there didn't seem to be any compelling reason in my mind for that extra wall to be built.
You mean
At
the
that-
return with the open sides?
Yes, yes. The open-
I didn't, I meant to question that more and I didn't.
So if in fact that was removed, yeah. I'm doing this visually and I'm going to explain the way I would see it altered, even though I know that we don't like to design things for the applicant.
Well, you're giving an example of what you mean, because I mean, I understand it. It's sort of like keep the parapet low. And maybe this addition is a different material set in and it becomes a secondary structure. Is that
Yeah,
what you meant?
so the whole configuration of that rooftop, where I saw that they showed that the property line goes straight along the church wall. And yet somewhere along the line, this tiny little house got the back edge beveled off. Of course, that we don't know why, or it
Same
just
owner.
is what it is.
It was the same
Well,
owner.
its original purpose was not to be a standalone independent house, but it was a part of the church because the
Yeah.
lived there. So
Also, these are tiny.
That's the reason
They
it's
really are tight. Anyway, so there were several things in the conversation that suggested, whoa, what if you just move it back? And in fact, the reason that they gave for not moving it back, so it had less visibility, was that we have to keep the stair clearance. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, keep the stair clearance. And just for that part enclosing the stair and its clearance, and start the roof there instead of, look like 3 feet forward. Cause you'll still have the wide overhang, for the recess part. And the whole roof structure could be just flipped around. You still have the slopes, but it would be further back. It just, I think that's, what I would suggest is that they study moving the roof back. And just have a little bit of the stair under the eave. And that would, I think that would still answer all of the other questions.
And it would minimize the size of it.
Minimize what you could see in that southwest corner of the roof.
Are you saying what a modified version, what was shown when I asked about the L shape, is just pushing the bulk back? The stair would stay with a conventional, that kind of a roof for the stair, and the however much bulk there could be would be on the back.
Yes, something like that.
And I'm mystified about why the fireman can't walk through a flat roof structure.
Yeah, there's all that technicality, but I'm just taking the explanation that we were given and the
Right.
definition.
So it's moving it's denying it as it is, or
On the grounds of visibility.
approving provided that the stair has a conventional roof and the bulk is moved to the back of the house. Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Something
Fine,
like that.
something.
It runs along the adjacent property line as opposed to coming across. So it's sort of nestled up against the property line. I mean, it's too big. It's too big. It's too tall. It's got this big pitch, which we never.
What
run
about
for.
the front windows, which are still going to show? Maybe Maybe they're not
Okay.
objectionable because they don't show very much, just the top.
Yeah, I think they be broken up and be maybe a less obviously a big plane of glass, but I mean, those are all little details that can be worked out. A little study. But it is very visible, so that's what we're trying to avoid.
Well, I
And-
think what bothers me
And
about
the
it
way
is
that this one's not so offensive, it's,
smaller. It's
Yeah.
it just doesn't meet the minimally visible standard.
Yeah, and not everybody gets a grand stair to the roof.
Right.
You can't squeeze it down. All these row houses, those are the exact same row house that they have in the 20s in Chelsea. Everyone has a little roof thing, but it's, you know, it's a little less fancy. It's less big, it's less grandiose,
It seems too important.
but. from a-
Which, and we, because we can, and we, I mean, which ordinarily, if we couldn't see it so much, wouldn't matter, but given its visibility, I think that becomes an important factor.
And it's a situation, it's as I always say, visibility is not our fault.
Right, and there are
This is
ways,
what it is. And
Yeah.
some houses are on the corner and some houses have a low building in front of them, and that's,
Well,
That's-
then people try to ease it into the view. They're not quite as, you know, to have a 12-foot high pitched roof might not be the right place for it. Those doors were like 7 feet, and then there's another 4 feet or so to the top of the ridge. And,
well, given a choice of flat and the ladder and the railing, what's preferable?
well, there's an in-between. You slope it with the slope of the stair, or, so it's sort of, because as it's going away from the facade, it's actually following the slope of your vision. So you slope it.
Maybe if that's left, then we'll be better off with the roof. If it's moved back with the same roof.
Yeah, I think they just have to go and figure out how to minimize it.
yes, yes.
And follow the sight lines instead of sort of like standing up to it. Just sort of, so that's what we usually ask for, and I think we should stick with that. So we don't have a whole lot of little rooms on
Say
top.
what you just said, but
I said we should stick with having the roof, the addition, try to be minimized by, as you know, your sight line, if it
oh
follows
yeah,
your sight
yes,
line, that's what we like. Because it's less intrusive and we wanna stick to that, cause we're gonna get, you know, a whole lot of little houses on top of the roof if this is the norm.
They're all trying. Every one of these rooftop additions, they're trying to get the most.
And it's fair.
Yeah.
But that's not our mandate. We're just trying to give them the most, but still get the historic district the most. It's understandable, it's always,
I thought the materials were well chosen.
Yes,
I don't know if they showed a darker brick than the main house facade. I'm not sure why they changed that. Why wouldn't that be?
did you think that was just a rendering thing?
Yeah, it could have been,
That's what
it
I
could have
thought.
been, so.
it looks
we might
brown as opposed to
Question,
red.
see if they're using the same matching brick.
Right.
Okay,
that's settled.
That's
Yes.
it.
Okay, Anita, the windows.
Well, I wanna hear what do you guys think? I mean, I've expressed
I
myself.
think what they're doing is trying to do as little as possible to change what's there.
Well,
I
is that
appreciate that
enough
aspect of it.
reason for what we have? I don't think that's, I don't know, I just
If
didn't
it's
think it
thought to
looked
be
nice.
impractical, then they'll find that out, certainly.
Well, when I looked at the floor plans, the placement of the operable windows in the old international strip windows, were all, pretty much all necessary for the bedrooms and so on. It is required. They could, as Anita said, they could be wider so that the proportion of the window isn't quite so skinny and tall. In fact, it would benefit one of the bedrooms, which right now has a very tiny slot for any window at all. And that might meet the minimum, but it looks really awkward.
So
So I think-
we recommend that it be the same design with wider operable windows.
Yes,
I think that sounds right.
Yeah, sure, definitely. And maybe, I don't know, not to put too fine a point on it, but I think a 7-foot high casement window is really, really big. I mean, you crack it open, it's like, you know, it might be better to have, hey, it's a window. I don't know, I would
Yeah,
prefer.
that solves the proportion problem, just to widen it out. And it doesn't disturb the longness, it simply puts the divider in a different place.
Anyway, it's so noisy there, probably nobody's ever gonna open the window,
Yeah,
ever.
right.
The privacy screens are a big problem.
Big being the
Because
operative
privacy
word.
screens are things placed on top of the roof.
I noticed that they're all set back from the facades.
Yeah, and
At
just
the-
looking from across the street at particularly on the lower building,
Come on, I don't think it's gonna bother me. This is a big horizontal building with a lot of roof and,
Yeah, a lot of, you know,
yeah.
ups and downs and different things on the roof and when I was over there looking at it, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
maybe people look at the beautiful windows and won't look up there.
But look, it's an odd building anyway, you know, it's very horizontal. And again, so these are more horizontal and they, like you said, they're set back.
And
You know
the
what?
the
should not-
structure didn't seem to be offensive.
What's that?
The bit of structure there about the egress. That you can see it from that
Yeah,
junction of
was-
100 Street.
Will help,
Yeah, that was.
actually, a
Yeah.
little help is called for here.
I
I
meant
will
to
express agreement, and don't come to me if you don't like the privacy screens once they're there.
Well, if the option is, 3 feet with some nasty fake foliage over it, that's,
Well,
not any better.
I know,
If it
only
were a
what's-
rooftop garden, that would be a wonderful thing.
I mean, it's a living thing, but.
but isn't that the point, that it's gonna be a rooftop? Not, I mean, look, it's Sixth Avenue, it is what it is, but it's.
So I meant to ask and I didn't, so did anybody get the impression that they are building to the maximum square footage that's allowed in that lot?
I don't,
Didn't seem like it, right?
no, this is a minimal renovation.
Yeah.
Minimal.
Yeah, it seems like, man, they're converting all this space to residential and I'm surprised, that's all.
I would have
That
expected,
it didn't maximize
It
it.
feels like it's an interim.
I expected this whole block front to go and be something like the one on the block south of it.
Yeah, me too. But we don't know what ultimately the plan is, but we can
Yeah,
only.
this is a
we can only-
minimal
And there was,
investment.
Like an
it
interim.
apparently is the same owner as the corner building, and that was a big discussion of ill will and so forth earlier.
Yeah,
But
I
about
mean,
the old
that
Brentano,
building or not.
the Brentano one?
but anyway, we can only opine on what this
Yeah.
proposal is, so.
I think we need the time and temperature back.
But it's clearly more than a taxpayer to go to
Yeah.
all this trouble, so they must not plan to try to take it down.
Well, so all in all, they're, being pretty careful with maintaining or preserving, the basics of the building.
Yeah,
Are we then resolved?
I think so.
completely resolved.
We already have 5 applications for next month, one of which is fairly sizable.
A lot of
And we
people,
have January, we can look forward to Canal Street at last, to revisit.
wonderful.
So we've a full winter. Thank you. I'll move as fast as I can tomorrow, Susan.
All right, I'll keep an eye out.
I have my physical workout in the morning, so that'll get me up and, and awake and ready.
What are you guys doing tomorrow?
No,
Thank
he's
you.
just still some of the draft.
Oh,
It's a
good.
satisfactory place, right?
What's that?
You all are happy there? As a place
Oh,
for
the
the meeting?
fluorescent light and the bright light is not, wouldn't be our,
It's hard to see the
Atmospheric
screen because it
choice.
washes it out, but it's
but
fine.
it worked. It solved the problem. And
We're
thank
happy.
you, Mark.
Beggars can't be choosers, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Okay.
I do just in case.
But it's for a meeting, wow.
Well, but a lot of that I didn't use
So we're
because
closing out, we should
in
close
in
out.
a
the
room this
meeting.
size, the owl works. Anyway, are we done? I'm not
Bye.
way out.
Bye.
I'm waving, but I can't see myself.
night.
There I am. I'm on the wrong side. Okay.
Thank you, Mark.
Good night,
Thank you
everybody.
so much.
Okay. So I can kill this, that means everybody, right?